usually like clap. I'm assuming you probably know what I'm in if you're here, but if not, I'll do a quick like rundown. I am the voice of Sailor Jupiter in Sailor Moon Crystal, and then the Viz Media redub, so I'm not the original that you grew up with. She's awesome. Susan's great. I'm also Boruto, who is Naruto's son in Boruto Naruto Next Generations, because my dad just had to get his name in my show title. I'm Junko Enoshima and Toko Fukawa in the Danganronpa video game series. I am Sully and Cherche and Elincia in the Fire Emblem video game series. I've done other stuff. If you've played Rage 2, this recent video game, I play the female version of the main character, Walker. And then, I've done other stuff. There's some cool stuff coming up, but I can't say anything about it. But it's really cool, and it makes me so sad, because people are like, what have you done the past couple of years? I'm like, animation takes a long time. So in the next year or two, there'll be some cool announcements to make. Anyway, hi, what are y'all doing here? What do you want to know? You're like, I thought this was Bryce's panel.
No,
it'd be fuller.
Hi. Just wondering, have you ever met the Sailor Jupiter from like the 90s cartoon?
Yes. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Second part is, did she pass on any Sailor Jupiter wisdom to you?
I have to be careful what I say. I met her and most of the cast. I met like Toby, Susan, Katie, and Linda at SAC Anime like 2014. So it was like when our version had just come out, so I was still a wee babe. And they were so great. They like took me in. We like went to their room and like drank wine, and it was just like awesome. And she did give me some advice. I don't know if she wants me to share it though, but it was on how to get a man. So I guess it's kind of Sailor Jupiter-y advice. But she also gave me advice on reading a book about, what is it? I never actually read it, but it was called Grain Brain. So she has a lot of wisdom about food science and apparently how to get men. So I can't exactly share that with you, though. It's a family panel.
Okay, I was like, did the advice work?
I'd never tried the advice. I don't have the stones for that. Or I can randomly do my stand-up. I'm sure I'll intersperse things here and there. But.
I have loads of questions. Here you go.
So I've heard there's a documentary called Let the Guys Talking, and one of the Musketeers had talked about when finding a voice, sometimes they might find a noise or a thing that particularly resonates with them when finding a character voice. Is there something that you do when you're trying to find a specific voice for a character that you can share with us?
I think, so for me, I tend to find characters more through, I'm that pretentious actor person, but I really like the Meisner technique, which is a form of acting that's very much just about impulse and kind of like what's already living in you, and I don't know, how things make you feel, and then the voice kind of comes from there, from like an organic place. But I will say, so I really like languages and accents, and for me, those all live in a very different part. Like when I try to describe it to people, I'll describe it as like, oh yeah, this Arabic sound is more of like a heavy sound, or it's more of like a clean, bright, but it's like I'll use like it's like I'm painting an image in my head. So like, so my mom's from France, and so when I'm trying to describe to somebody how to pronounce French words, I'm like, it's very in the back of the throat. It's a little bit like, what you say? Like when you're talking, you don't, the lips don't really move. It's like a bee stung you or something. It's not really, because like my cousin would do that all the time. He'd be like, oh, je sais pas. Like he just never opened his mouth. Whereas like with Spanish, it's more like percussive. It's like musical, and it's more in the front, and you're like rolling the R's up here, and it's like. So I definitely will kind of, when I'm finding my voice when it comes to an accent, I do tend to find like, like is it in the back of the throat, or is it more like, like it's just kind of moving things around to different places. That sounds really weird, but there's so many. If you ever go to theater school or if you're a singer, that you're like, oh well, I can resonate with my, like in my mask, or I can do more of a chest voice, or like lift my soft palate, or like close off my, like right now I'm learning Arabic and it's been really interesting. So there's a lot of sounds we don't make here, but it's kind of fun. It's like a workout. You're like sabah khair, and it's like sabah. And it's just like interesting, like, and so that's more of like I don't know. It's like opening up your throat and just letting the air like just escape. Anyway, that's how my brain is working. Next question. Save me from myself.
You mentioned yesterday that you have to deal with unintentional but racist stereotypes when you're being. I was wondering if you could expand a little bit on that and what you do about it, because I'm sure that there's I can't react too much, otherwise I get myself blacklisted.
Right.
Or do I just let it happen and not educate?
African American listed. I'm just kidding. I'm just being stupid. No, I'm just being stupid.
Just kind of.
Yeah, no. That's a good question. I don't usually talk about like race stuff usually. So yesterday it's so interesting that me talking about it has so many people have had questions. So I'm like, maybe I should be more open about things. I guess because I'm just like, I'm a weird like blend of a lot of things, and then I also was like born in Germany, and like I have this like my international family, so I feel like I don't belong to any group. But in Hollywood, they very much like to pigeonhole you. They don't have really good imaginations, although voiceover is better than on camera. For voiceover, obviously, I play Boruto, who's like a blonde little child, like a male human child, but I've also played like giant snake ladies. So it's like there's definitely more leeway. But the stereotypes I've had to deal with in voiceover tend to be people kind of assume that if you are genetically one thing, then you somehow also just inherit that culture. So like, my dad is from Louisiana, so he's like black, white, and Native American, and then my mom's from France and she's white. And so people are like, well, you're kind of black. So they'll bring me in for roles and they'll be like, hey, we need you to sound like urban. Hi. Is this a video or a photo?
Photo. So look like you're like.
So like be like, I'm important. I'm drinking water. I'm like, I'm hydrating myself. I'm talking about really important stuff.
Do this pose. You're giving it an intense explanation thing.
So anyway, unicorns are really kind of douchey, really, if you like want to be honest about it.
Right on douchey.
They're like horses who think they're better than other horses. Anyway, okay, so back to the real question. So I've had some times where they'll bring me in for stuff because they're trying. It's well-meaning, like you said, like. They're trying to cast ethnically specific now, because it used to be that they're like, yeah, we'll have this white actor play this ethnic character and he'll do a really bad like jive thing. And so they're like, now they try to actually cast people who are that. The problem is they don't seem to understand that like, I was raised in the suburbs. My dad is not like very urban. He wrote it for Ronald Reagan. Like he's a very like, well, hello there. Like he just talks like, like, so it's, I don't know what that is any more than a white actor would. But they'll be like, hey, can you sound a little more, like I had a Fruit of the Loom. Oh shoot, I shouldn't say the brand. Whatever. I did a commercial radio or a TV commercial once, and they were like, "Hey, can you be a little like sassier?" And I was like, "Okay." So I was like more sassy, like, "Yeah, Fruit of the Loom." Like I was like more my version of sassy. They're like, so like they're trying to find a way to dance around it. So they're like, originally. We had pitched Queen Latifah for this spot. And I was like, and you hired me? So the way I kind of started to get around it was I would basically just give them what I think they wanted, and then they'd be like, oh, that's so offensive. So basically they'd be like, we want more sassy, like Queen Latifah, and I'm like, I love Fruit of the Loom. And like I would go to the extreme to make them uncomfortable. To be like, oh, is this what you want? You want me to be all stereotypical? And then I'd be stereotypical, and they're like, okay, yeah, no, go back to what you're doing. I'm like, thank you. So it's like kind of using their own, I don't know, what is that? That martial art where you use the momentum against them. I'm like, this is what you asked me to do. I'm like, I don't sound like. So anyway, that's kind of how I do it. I make them feel weird about asking me to do it, and then they let me do what I want. So yeah, so luckily it's not been too big of a problem, but I did have like another commercial session where this like 80-year-old white dude was explaining to me how to sound black, which I just thought was very ironic. I'm like, look, I don't know how to sound it more than you, but I'm pretty sure if anybody should be telling me, it's probably not you, dude. And he's like, I need you to, shoot from the hip. You know what I'm saying, sister girl? Like, he was doing this terrible thing, and I'm just like, oh, this is happening. I've heard stories of this in Hollywood, but it's happening in front of me.
So what did you end up doing though?
Well, that session was hard. That was probably the hardest session of my career, because he also was talking down to me as if I had never done voiceover before.
Awesome.
Like, I guess because he didn't know me, so he was just like, in voiceover you gotta blah, 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 blah. And he was explaining to me how to do something I've been doing for 8 years. And like, he's just old Hollywood, very much like, I know everything, and yeah, come on, I've got it, So eventually I just stopped looking at him. It was the weirdest thing, like, because I'm like, if I can't, I did say, like, he's like, you need to do this, I'm like, you mean sound black? And he's like, whoa, like, so it's like, that was the most passive aggressive I got, but then eventually I just kind of like would stop looking when he would give direction. I'm like, okay, let's go, let's do another take. And so I think eventually they kind of picked up that like his direction was ridiculous. And so the assistant director started directing, and then everything went smoothly. And then at the end of the session, he's like, let's get a selfie, doll. I'm like, did none of that went over your head? And again, I try to look at people's intentions, and I don't think he realizes. Like, he's not trying to be like, he's not like a Klansman or something. He's just old, and that's how things used to be done. And he thinks he's got a real good black scent. So I'm just going to let him carry on with his life. Sister girl. Like, it was the weirdest thing. Yeah, sorry, I was rambling answer to your question.
That being said, now is this, is the urban accent something that you feel like you may need to add to your repertoire?
Honestly, no, because I feel like if it's not part of my culture, then to me it feels just as much like appropriation as like, I don't know, a white actor doing it. Maybe it's a weird thing. People are like, well, you get a pass. I'm like, no, I don't, because if I'm doing it, I'm just doing some stereotypical version that's in my head versus like, oh, this is a lived experience. That being said, I have played characters of other accents and cultures, so that feels like kind of a cop-out, but it just feels a little bit weird. I also feel weird about it because, as you can tell, I'm very light-skinned, and I feel weird taking parts that should go to actual, like, I don't know, it's a weird thing in America where like, oh, well, you're kind of black, so basically you can claim it, but I feel weird because I have not experienced the oppression that a lot of them have. So I feel weird only claiming it when it benefits me. Like, people are like, well, you should just claim it because you are that, so you get the parts. I'm like,
You can't win.
because it's like, yeah, I don't want to.
That's not your whole identity.
It's not my whole identity. Like, my mom's from France and she's white, and I don't like erasing a part of me, and then I'm also Native American, like, or all these things. And so, but also just, yeah, it feels like an imposter. I feel like an imposter, or I feel phony if I try to be like, yeah, sure, I'm black. If you want to cast me as that, it's like, I feel like this could actually go to somebody who's really been working for it and could use this leg up. That sounds weird. I don't know. They're opening a door that I feel like it belongs to somebody else. I don't feel like I should be stepping through that door if there are other opportunities that have been provided to me. Because I learned recently that with my hair straight, some people just think I'm white. So I'm like, oh, so I can kind of go out for more things. So why would I take? I don't know. I don't want to be somebody who's just like, yeah, I'll take that opportunity. I'm going to take everybody's shot, and they're all mine. Anyway, sorry if that got a little weirdly racial, but.
Yeah, throw your hands up. I can see.
So I just had 2 questions. The first one is there like a role that you're aiming for to say like, I made it type of deal? And the second question is, for Boruto, do you follow like the manga in Japan or like the subtitle like anime episodes to see what's coming up for ahead of you?
Yes, so I'll answer the second one first because I feel like the first one requires more thought. Yeah, I have the first 2 manga, but I haven't kept up with it. But I'll watch on Hulu. I'll try to watch the subtitled version ahead of time, so I have some idea of what we're going into when we go into the session. But usually the director has a pretty good, the director has watched the episode, so if I haven't seen it, the director is able to be like, okay, so what just happened was blah 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 blah, and Mitsuki did this, and now you're responding to this, but you don't know this yet. So it's like they'll give you, because most people don't have time to watch all the stuff beforehand. So usually the director is filling in those gaps. But The first question, that's one that I have learned will probably never be, that one's always going to change, because every time you think you're like, okay, yeah, if I just get to here, I'll have made it. And then you get there and you're like, oh, what's next? Like, that's even I have friends who are like series regulars on like TV shows, and they say, they're like, yep, I thought this was going to be like the thing I'm working towards my whole career. Now they're like, all right, well, I'd like to do movies now, or, you know, like, I'd like to do a good show now, or I don't know, because sometimes you're a series regular, but the writing's not great, or something like that. But one of my friends is on a show that actually shoots here. It's called In the Dark. It's a CW show. It's on Netflix. It's pretty good, so check it out. But they, what was it? Yeah, I would like to do on TV and film. It's kind of something I've been trying to do. I was in LA for 8 years, and then I moved to Atlanta recently because there's a lot of TV and film there. It's cheaper to live in Atlanta. But yeah, so I guess if I could like say I've made it, maybe the next level of making it, because I don't think you ever really make it. Even an A-list celebrity gets turned down for parts. Like, there's nobody who's just like, my life is so easy, I can just walk into a room and be like, cast me. Because that was something that was kind of cool to realize, oh, even like Nicole Kidman auditioned for Chicago, but Renee Zellweger got it, or something like that. And I'm like, man, you're still auditioning, even at the top. Even if you're nominated for Oscars or win Oscars, there was always the next thing. But yeah, so like, I'd love to be on a series regular on like a TV show, something sci-fi probably, like a Joss Whedon kind of thing, where I'd be like some beloved Joss Whedon character that gets killed too early, and therefore I die before I can get annoying, and so fans will love me for the rest of time. As opposed to a character who's like on it for 6 seasons, and people are like, yeah, they were cool, and then they just made a bunch of uncharacteristic decisions, now they suck. So I want to be immortalized like that. Anyway.
I was going to ask a follow-up question about auditions. But
Okay.
I don't know if you want to keep going into that topic.
I'm totally fine. I just feel weird spilling that all over you guys, because I don't know if you're like interested in hearing it or not. So if you want to know more about it. Because I've had people be like, why don't you talk more about being mixed? I was like, I don't know. I didn't think anybody cared.
What's it like not to be mixed?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, why don't you talk about being white? I don't know. Like, we don't just talk about things all the time.
Well, so my question was going to be, have there been times when it's been suggested that you audition for a role that you know, it is part of your heritage, but you don't necessarily claim full time, and you said, you know what, I would rather not audition for this so that someone else could?
All the time. Even like, it's a conversation, it's a fight me and my friends have a lot, because I have, you know, one friend who's just like, why don't you just accept it? Like, why don't you just, but it feels weird, it feels wrong. And for me, I'm kind of like, well, if it feels weird, it probably is. You know, like, because I can also audition for white parts, I can audition for other things. And that's the unfortunate thing, is that a lot of times, you know, I know a lot of black voice actors can only get cast as black characters. Unless they can, because it's like, once people have seen your face, they get it's like a unconscious bias, where like, they're not trying to be like, oh, we'll only cast her as black, but that's the only time they'll think to audition them. So sometimes that'll happen to even me. Like, I'll get a call for a studio, like a video game, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never worked with this studio before. I wonder if like my reputation's finally gotten around to them, or like whatever, like, you know, and I'm thinking like it's my, like that I'm merit-based got the audition, or that they just really like my work, and then I get to the audition and I see that there's like 3 characters I'm auditioning for, and they're all black. And so part of me is like, oh, I see, you only thought of me because of that, not because I was good or anything. And that's probably a crappy way to think about it, but it's definitely like, oh, there's so many people in LA, sometimes they don't think about people until they need something specific. And they're like, okay, yeah, black girl or Asian girl, yeah. Like my friend Keiji, he tried an experiment once where he auditioned with a whiter sounding name. So he's Keiji Tang, which is super Asian sounding. And so he was only getting called in for certain parts. But then when he switched to Kenneth Thompson, he started getting a lot more stuff. So it was just like, it's interesting that, like, you know, I don't think anybody's consciously trying to discriminate. It's just, we just have our programming. I don't know if that answered your question though, but yeah. I feel weird taking parts from people that I know have a harder time getting accepted into mainstream voiceover than I do. But I've also had times where I know it's pointless because people have said, they're like, you don't sound black enough. So I'm like, well, stop auditioning for me for parts. I didn't want to audition for this part anyway. So, right. You hear how I sound. I'm as urban as Wonder Bread. So you know what you called me in here, doofus.
So, speaking of, okay, so you said earlier that you wanted to, like, what your next goal would be trying to get a regular part on a series, TV series. Do you want to be in front of the camera or voiceover or like?
So I was a theater major, so I'm used to being on stage. Like I'm used to, I've filmed projects. I have a web series called Ghosts and Stuff Inc., which is super funny. Check it out on YouTube. But like Ghosts and Stuff, like Bed Bath and Beyond. it's like Parks and Rec meets Ghostbusters. It's kind of how I describe it. So I like to write. I want to write things, but I do want to be in front of the camera. Just LA, again, is very competitive. So the 8 years I was there, voiceover opened up for me. So that's kind of the route I went down. But Atlanta on camera is the thing. And so I finally got an on-camera agent this past week. So I'm hoping things will... I've got like my first guest star audition for a TV thing. I'm like, all right, Southeast, like LA. I have friends who are like, I've been here 13 years and I've had 3 auditions in 13 years.
Everybody in the dentist in LA is trying to be an actor.
Yeah, that's the thing about moving to LA is like if you like being around only people who are doing what you do, great. Some people like that. They like the energy of being around only creative people who are trying to write or act or whatever. What I like about Atlanta is I like that I'm around people who are bankers. There's people people come there for all sorts of reasons, so I get more perspectives. I get more like in LA, a lot of the conversations are like, well, so what did you book? Oh yeah, did you audition for that too? Yeah, I didn't get it. I wonder who got it. Like it's just very, who are you signed with? Like it's just, I don't know. I shouldn't be bashing things. LA is fine. It just wasn't for me. It's like flan. Like some people like flan. It's all right.
Flan's all right.
It's all right. I'll eat it if it's there.
Does anybody? Floor is open. If not, I'll just ask all the questions.
If not, we can just talk more about flan.
Well, I'm down for flan.
How did you get your role as
Burrito?
Boruto? And how you got to Japan and like met the original?
Oh my gosh. No, I'd love to go to Japan. No, I have not met the original yet. One day I'll go to Japan. That'd be cool. But I auditioned for it kind of the same way I auditioned for a lot of other stuff. I don't think I actually got that one through my agent. So the Studiopolis, sorry, I shouldn't wave this in front of this mic if you're recording something. I'm just shaking the water around and the whole thing's going to sound like it's...
I watched Amanda Miller shake her water around.
Or it's just like...
And it's on video.
Well, just like there's the mic right here, and I'm just doing it right in front of the mic the whole time. I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm messing up your recording. So I forgot the question. I'm so sorry. Boruto, yes. So the same studio who did Sailor Moon did Boruto, or recorded it. So the casting director knew me, so he sent it to me directly. He was like, hey, here's this thing. So I auditioned for it, and this was, 3 years ago, and didn't hear back for like a couple weeks, and then I get an email being like, hey, so congratulations, you got this part. Can you start recording tomorrow? I was like, ah! So we started the video game first. So the video game was the very first thing we did. And so that's why if you notice also the voice kind of starts to change because we're like figuring it out. So we did the video game first, then we did the movie, and then the series took forever. We were like, are we doing the series? Because we did the movie, and then a year went by, and it was coming out subtitled, but we still hadn't. So eventually we finally did the dub, and I think we've recorded through like 80 something. So it's like it's still going in Japan. So we'll see. But yeah, it's been a cool process of discovery because that's the first time I've carried a show before. It's a big franchise.
Well, hopefully it won't be as long
as Naruto. Yeah, so this is somebody's theory. They were saying that they were like Naruto was the longest, then Shippuden was like, was it half the length or like so or like and then
Shippuden was longer than Naruto.
Oh really? I thought they were just saying something like Naruto was like 500 and the Shippuden was 200 or something.
No.
Or is it opposite?
Naruto was 200.
And then it went okay.
And Shippuden was 5.
Oh, so then his theory's BS. Because he told me, he was like, yeah, so he's like, so Boruto will probably max at like 200 or 300, but I don't know. We will see. I have no idea.
I'm sorry, we have time for like 2 short questions and 1 really long one, all right?
Okay.
4 minutes, okay?
Also, you can spritz me with a water bottle if I'm just talking too much. You can be like, another question. Stop talking. Stop talking.
I don't have one, so.
Oh,
sorry.
then just throw this in my face.
Hi again.
Hello.
So when the Salem and Crystal cast all got the project, was there a sense within the group that we're kind of taking over with like the new generation from something that already has a reputation?
Oh, yeah, it was definitely like nerve-wracking, especially because I grew up, watching the same one everybody else did. Like, Jupiter was my favorite. I'd never in a million years would have thought 20 or 25 years later I'd be like voicing my favorite character that I used to run around in my backyard with my friends being like, Jupiter Thunder, like. So it was definitely like the first like 20 episodes or so, I was so nervous because I'm just like, this is my favorite character. If somebody messes this up, it's all on me. I can't blame anybody else, because it's so much easier to sit back and be like, I hate what that person did. This person screwed up that character. But when you are that character, it's like, ugh. But they were so gracious, like, because we got to meet them very briefly at the initial Anime Expo where they like announced us, like, so we didn't really get a chance to like officially pass the torch or anything. So when I saw them at SAC Anime a couple months later, I like went up to them and I was like, hey, just so you know, I hope it doesn't feel like we're like trying to replace you. Like, you are the OGs, you are, you're the legacy ones, and I hope to like, hold a candle and continue. Like, this is a different way to enjoy the show, but I hope you don't feel like we're trying to replace you. And they responded well to that, and they were like, drink wine with us. They're so funny. Yeah, living that dream.
So I lied. We have time until 2:15. So we're good.
Oh.
The rest of the questions. Yeah, hey.
I was gonna say, I'm like, this panel's going so quick. I'm not talking that much, am I? I've just talked an hour away.
You've been on a lot of shows, and I know that in theater, it's good to go into audition knowing a little bit about the show and the character you want. Are you familiar with a lot of the shows that you do, like including the anime, before you go and audition for them?
So anime, it's a little easier to research stuff because, usually there's a lag time. Like, it'll come out in Japan, and then you dub it. Unless it's like, if you're doing something with Funimation, they try to do simulcast, which is like, those schedules are crazy. They're like actors will get fired if they're sick for a week, or I don't know, maybe that's a rumor I've heard, but like they're like, because they're like, the production's got to go on, so it's like, sorry dude, we got to keep going, or not fired, but they'll just replace them for that episode and keep going. So usually we get like, I can Google like, what is Boruto, and and like you maybe even find clips on YouTube to kind of give me some reference. So that's helpful. For animation and video games, there's really not much to go off of, because especially for video games, they usually use code names. So they won't tell you it's Halo. They'll call it like Project Bungalow or something that's like really the most random names. Like I was working on a game called Days Gone, but the original title was like, oh gosh, what was it, like Red Chair Project? Like, it's like, they're just like the most arbitrary things, because I guess there was some sort of competition between video game companies a while back, and people were like trying to not leak their stuff because they didn't want somebody else to beat them to it and release the game earlier. So yeah, like there's a project. Oh yeah, and like Rage 2, we still call it we're like calling it by its code name. I think it was like Hunter or something. So it's just kind of like, so video games, you can't look it up. You maybe can look up like the studio if you know that it's like by somebody who also did this other game. You can kind of assume maybe it's more gritty, so that might help with your read. It's like, oh, they like cinematic, realistic things. Or if you know like, oh, it's from the creators of, I don't know, Fortnite, then you can be like, okay, it's a little more playful and fun and energetic or something. But and then animation, yeah, you usually don't get much. Although animation, they'll usually at least give you, like, it's Disney or it's Cartoon Network, and that can tell you a whole bunch, because Cartoon Network has a tone now. Like, Cartoon Network's like quirky, awkward, kind of like college student, high school level comedy now. Like, it's not so much for kids. It's more of like, yeah, regular show. Like, it's just kind of like, whereas Disney likes high energy stuff. They like stuff that's really fast. So whenever I audition for Disney, I'm always like, yeah, I'm doing this thing. And then also, oh, by the way, like I'll try to, like, it's just kind of, you kind of have to be a detective and like be like, these are the clues I have. I know it's for Disney, or it's for Disney Junior. So Disney Junior, you know, if it's for kids, talk a little slower and a little bit brighter, and be like, wow, I'm so excited, you know, like, and like, I don't know, it's kind of fun to figure that stuff out.
With that, you mentioned earlier that you were learning Arabic.
Yeah.
Like the language or the dialect? Or both?
Oh, smart. A lot of people don't know that when people say like, oh, Arabic, the Arabic that they teach you in school a lot of times is not actually spoken Arabic. There's Arabic it's diglossic, which means it's like a written version and a spoken version. Well, the written version, so basically it's called Fusha, and it's like that's what you'll learn in college. That's basically the equivalent of like Shakespeare. So like, it's what you read, but if you speak it, people on the street are like, did you just get teleported here from like, is this Back to the Future? What's happening? But that's what a lot of people are learning. So if people are like, oh, I'm studying Arabic, I'm like, oh, no, you're not. Because anyway, you know, like a lot of entertainment is in dialect. So like there's like an Egyptian dialect, or like there's like every country kind of has its own Arabic, but they're kind of bunched into regions. So I'm learning the Levantine dialect, which is kind of like Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Palestine, all that. There's also the Egyptian dialect, which was kind of the most popular for a while because that's like where Hollywood is for them, in Cairo. So all the Middle Eastern big movies came out of there. So all the accents were Egyptian. So everybody could understand an Egyptian accent because that's what they were raised on listening to. And then there's like Moroccan. So yeah, I'm learning the Levantine one right now. It's kind of fun.
Okay. To clarify,
Yes.
Is it English words with the Levantine dialect, or it's
Oh,
Arabic?
sorry, you mean dialect isn't like an accent?
Yeah.
No, but see, I was just gonna give you credit for knowing the difference between like the dialect.
Yes, but I didn't realize that it was all one.
Yeah,
Cool.
so the dialect, it's basically like Arabic is almost like a family of languages. So being, you know, saying like I speak Arabic is like saying I speak Semitic. Like it doesn't really make sense. You're like, which Arab, you know, so even Jordanian and Lebanese Arabic has more like French words in it because of the French influence there, and like Morocco as well. So it's like there's every country has their own way of saying things. Like, you know, some people just say not my, you know, like anamabarif, but then other people might say like anamish, like it's like little tweaks. You guys didn't want like a language lesson, but like I love languages though. It's so cool because I feel like it's like you almost have a different personality if you speak multiple languages, because different languages have different ways of phrasing things. Yeah, and different placement, but like, you know, even just the way they look at the world, like, you know, we say I miss you, but then in French you'd be like, you know, tu me manques. It's like you are missing from me, kind of like, and it's almost like it's like the way it's viewed. It's like I miss you. It's about me, whereas it's like you are a part of me and you're missing from me. Like I don't know. It changes the way you think about the phrasing things.
So once you feel like you're at a point where you're fluent, is that something that you add to your demo reel, or is it added to your resume? Like,
So I have it on my resume. That's the weird thing is like, you know, I never feel fluent. Like you know, my mom will say like, yeah, you're fluent in French because you can converse and whatever. But I'm like, yeah, but I mess up words a lot. And she's like, fluent just means you can converse and like be understood and not have to think too hard. I'm like, yeah, but I sound stupid. Or like, you know, like. So I feel like I'm, even now I'll be like, well, I'm fluent, but, and I'll make all these things. But yeah, I put it on my resume because I'm fluent enough for TV. Because basically, if you give me a script, I can memorize it. And like my accent's really good. That's the other part, is if you have a good accent, people think you can speak it better than you can. So like, you know, like at my Arabic school, I'll start saying something, and they're like, oh, okay, she can understand Arabic. And then I'm like, no, I can't. I can only say like marhaba and like a couple other things, but you, okay. But for TV, it works.
Okay.
Yes. It's gonna be fun.
We have plenty of time. Does anybody else let me know?
So along the lines of you've been in the industry for several years and you've gotten roles that you enjoy doing and you have things that you would like to do outside of voiceover, what are the sorts of projects within animation that you get it and you say, oh yeah, I want to do this? Like what excites you now?
In animation and stuff. I like anything that's trying to push boundaries. Like, it's technically not voiceover, but I wrote the English dialogue for this show called Cannon Busters, which is a new anime on Netflix, and it's so cool. It's like Firefly meets like Samurai Champloo. Like, it's really cool. So I love working on anything like that that's like, you know, so there's so many things now in Hollywood. Like, I say Hollywood is made up of like visionaries, or not just Hollywood, but obviously the entertainment industry, even in anime, but it seems like it's made up of visionaries and made up of businessmen or business people. And the visionaries can see things that aren't there and just they have faith. They're like, you know what? Nobody's made this yet, but I really think it's going to be cool, so I'm going to push forward and do it, even though I have no evidence that shows me that it will be successful. But they just like follow their heart. And you know, the same with like actors, and the creatives tend to be more visionary because they can imagine and create things that aren't there. The businessmen are like, well, what's been successful? Let's make more of that. You know, or like what already is the next big thing. It's like buying stock in Apple now versus in the 80s. So I love anything that's made by a visionary, basically. Like any anime or any animation thing where they describe it to me, I'm like, that is so cool. Like, that's ballsy. I want to be a part of that. So yeah, anything that just seems like it's not something we've seen before. Like, I'm working on a show right now, and I can't say what it is, but it's probably not going to come out till like next fall, but it's going to be on Netflix. No, there's like a mic here, there's a recorder there, there's people like
Turn everything off.
yeah, just like no, okay. It won't. Yeah, I'll just mouth it to myself, and then it's just like. But it's so cool because it's like an episodic animated series, like original animated series, and for a long time, a lot of animation industry people were like, kids don't want to see like ongoing stories. They want to see just stuff where you can just tune into that episode and enjoy it and whatever. Whereas like this show they shopped it around for a while to multiple big networks, and it got passed on. No, what were you saying?
No, I just wondered what network.
It's going to be on Netflix, and that's what I love is Netflix. I think Netflix, they're visionaries because they tend to be like, you know what, everybody else turned this down, but I believe in you. And sorry, I had to burp. But they they tend to leave their creators alone. A lot of times when you have stuff on ABC or like the primetime networks, you have like Suits, who are the businessmen, being like, I didn't like this thing. I don't understand the thing with the, you know, or they'll give stupid comments. They'll, you know, there's been times where they'll say, this show's got too many brown people. Like, they've had that in the past. And it's like, or there used to be a Twitter account, I think it was called Network Notes, and they would basically, writers would share the stupidest notes they've gotten from the network. And one of them was from Charmed back in the day, and they were like, and the executive said, that's not a real witch law. Or like another one was like, mermaids don't look like that, or just like, it's like, oh, because you're an expert. I ramble. I don't even know where I am anymore. I'm turned around.
Another question?
But no, did I answer? Whose question was it? Where am I? Who am I? What's
Did
happening?
that work out for you, or?
What was the question, though? I don't know.
What interests you?
Yes, basically anything original and cool, and yeah, and the show I'm gonna be on. You'll see next year. You'll be like, that's the show. I don't know if there's like a number for the autograph table. I'm next to. I don't know who I'm next to because they haven't showed up yet. Oh, I'm next to Lucy Christian's table. And some guy with a cowboy hat. That could be anyone. That could be you. I'm next to you. Actually, is that a fedora or more of a cowboy?
I don't know. I just got it.
I'm next to her table. There you go.
In the north or the south building?
Oh, I don't know anything. Is it the other one? The other one, because we had to walk far to get here. So, yeah. What was the other question?
Hi.
Hi.
So you said you've done theater school, you've done a whole bunch of training. Is there any training that you haven't done yet that you feel like it's like, that would be really cool to do? I want to learn how to do that and put it on my resume, or even just as a personal skill.
I love learning, so I'm constantly adding new things to my resume. For a long time, Meisner acting scared me, so I finally started it just this January, and it's changed my acting completely. I think I'm 100 million times better now. because I'm just more truthful. And but I want to learn stunts, but it's hard to do that when you're lazy and overweight. So I'm anything's possible, but not likely. Because also, on TV you have to look a certain way. So if I look like I just got off the couch after like a 30-year nap, they're not going to cast me as somebody who's like an FBI agent. So I need to like get my body back in shape. But I would like to learn. There's like a school in Atlanta that's like action tactical or something, and they teach you how to convincingly discharge a weapon and or like how to hold it, like how SWAT teams do it versus how these people do it, like really like authentic stuff. They teach you how to knife fight, like it's really cool. Also, there's a gym near my house that does sword fighting that historical, it's called HEMA. It's historical European martial arts. So it's not like stage combat, like you're actually dealing with like broadswords. And they're like, yeah, next week we're gonna deal with grappling and blades or like little daggers. I just started going there, and then I had this really bad like nerve pain, like damage thing in my shoulder. It's fine. I'm starting to see a chiropractor soon, and we'll sort that stuff out. But yeah, once I get everything sorted, I will be a historical European martial artist. 2 more minutes.
Can I shoot it off,
Yeah.
you think? Okay.
This is just for personal interest. I just quickly, I noticed that you did voiceover for Hearthstone and played that a lot. Do you remember what voice?
Wait, I did voiceover
For
what?
Hearthstone. Hearthstone. Do you remember like what you did for Hearthstone?
I don't think I did Hearthstone.
Well, it says like on your IMDb.
That's weird. It's on my IMDb.
Yeah.
I don't think I did. People can add stuff.
Hearthstone's like that Blizzard card game.
Yeah, the only Blizzard thing I ever did was like when I first moved out here, I did like 6 lines in like World of Warcraft as like a dragon. And it was like Twilight something, Hour of Twilight or something like that.
You don't have to spoil. You don't have to say, are you working on like big video game stuff? You don't have to say which company it is.
Not right now. Right now I'm doing DLC content for some games that have already come out. But yeah, right now I'm mainly working on Boruto, some DLC stuff for some video games, and then that unnamed Netflix show. I have another Netflix thing coming out, hopefully in a couple months, but I don't know when. But it's going to be season 4 of a show.
Everybody take notes.
So that'll be cool.
Looks like that wraps us up.
No, thank you guys for coming. I'm always like surprised. I'm like, oh, you came for me?
Yeah.
Little old
Are
me.
you here all weekend or you're leaving?
I'm leaving right now. I don't know why I'm here. No, I'm just kidding. I'm here through Sunday. So I will be at my table for the most part. Yeah, somewhere that way. It's in the other building.
I think there's a map.